Welcome to the Annapolis Maritime Museum, your connection to the natural history of the Chesapeake Bay and the cultural heritage of the hardworking men and women who make their living on it. The museum is housed in the historic McNasby Oyster Company building, the last vestige of a major industry that once thrived in Annapolis, as it did all along the Chesapeake Bay. Annapolis has a unique maritime heritage and history. Before Captain John Smith sailed by 400 years ago on his voyages of discovery, Piscataway and Susquehannock Indians traveled through this area, hunting, fishing, and gathering oysters for food. Early English settlers grew tobacco and shipped it back to England to trade for everything they couldn't provide for themselves here, including slaves. In 1695, Annapolis was chosen to become the capital of Maryland because of its central location and its snug harbor. Up until the Revolution, Annapolis was a thriving center of transatlantic trade, but as commerce increased, much of that industry shifted to Baltimore. While Baltimore boomed, Annapolis remained relatively undeveloped. That's why so many historic buildings survived into the 21st century. When the United States Naval Academy was founded in 1845, local commerce depended upon steamboats that connected Annapolis with other ports on both shores of the bay, transporting passengers, produce, and other cargo with reliable speed on dependable schedules. After the Civil War, the oyster industry boomed. A record 18 million bushels were harvested in 1886. Competition for the Chesapeake's white gold became so fierce, Maryland oyster police fought bloody battles with piratical watermen. Today, over-harvesting, pollution, and disease have reduced the oyster population to a mere 1% of its historical level. As the seafood industry declined, new technology made recreational boating more accessible. Modern fiberglass powerboats and sailboats have largely replaced traditional wooden workboats. A year-round schedule of regattas and events, from the Wednesday night races to the world-renowned Annapolis boat shows, has secured the city's reputation as America's sailing capital. The Annapolis Maritime Museum tells these stories of our unique history and heritage through exhibits and programs. The exhibit gallery is the original shucking room, an appropriate setting for the core permanent exhibit, Oysters on the Half Shell. This exhibit tells about the bay's once ubiquitous bivalve, its importance to the health of the Chesapeake Bay, about the watermen who harvested them, and the men and women, black and white, who shucked and packed them in this very room. The Buchanan Bay Room serves as a maritime art gallery, a concert hall for traditional and contemporary maritime music, and a lecture hall where authors, historians, and other experts share and explore the culture and heritage of Annapolis and the Chesapeake Bay. This space is also accessible for family, corporate, or community celebrations and events. The exhibit gallery and the Bay Room also serve as classrooms for the museum's education programs. Every year, 2,000 students from schools in and around Annapolis get connected to the Bay, its natural history, and cultural heritage. The museum provides rare public access to the waters of the Bay. You can visit by boat or water taxi, fish and crab from the piers, launch a canoe, kayak, or tennis ball retriever from the beach, catch a summertime maritime concert, or just watch the birds and boats sail by. In the summer, the museum provides tours by boat out to the Thomas Point Shoal Lighthouse, a National Historic Landmark built in 1875. It's the last screw-pile lighthouse left in its original location, 1.5 miles off the mouth of the South River. Whether you're visiting for the first time or you've set your anchor here for good, you'll discover that this isn't just a great small museum. It's a focal point of community spirit, a place to gather and share our history, our heritage. By celebrating our past, we can preserve our distinct identity and use it as a compass to guide us on our course into the future. We hope you enjoy your visit and come back throughout the year for one of our maritime concerts, lectures, special events like the Annapolis Oyster Roast in the spring or the Boatyard Beach Bash in the fall, and please, join the crew. Become a member or volunteer as a museum docent, teacher, tour guide, boatwright, gardener, aquarium keeper, or event planner. The museum is a site in the Four Rivers Heritage Area. This presentation was made possible by a grant from Four Rivers and the Maryland Heritage Areas Authority. The museum is also a site on the Captain John Smith Chesapeake National Historic Trail and the Chesapeake Bay Gateways and Water Trails Network.